We are going live, and so we'll be live in about 3 minutes. If you're just joining us, welcome. Welcome to everyone to our Zoom meeting. Hello, everyone. I'm Rachel Ann. I'm your host today. And it's great to be here, and it's great to talk about the Earth and our planet and the things that we can do together to save the world by starting with half of the world, which actually when I first heard about this book and Dr. Wilson through my work with Mickey, it was incredible to see that, you know, people think big, and sometimes if you think big, it's overwhelming or it doesn't make sense. So what was really interesting is how focusing on half can really purposefully affect the whole. So I'm really looking forward, Paula, to having you talk a little bit about that today, because I think for many people, when they see the book or they see the organization and the work that you're doing, they're like, well, what about the rest of the Earth? You know, why only half? So that's one of the things that we will talk about today in our discussion. So like I said, we're just going to give some people a chance to join in. We're 2 minutes early. My name is Rachel Ann, and I'm from the Mickey Hart Book Club. And we're here with Dr. Paula Ehrlich, who is the president of the E.O. Wilson Biodiversity Foundation. And we'll dive in a little deeper in a few minutes. So thank you, everyone, for being here. Welcome. Welcome. We're just going to, like I said, continue to admit people. Paula, I'm going to turn it over to you in a second. And you'll be on the screen with me. And we're live on Facebook, which is great to see everyone. And we will get started. Like I said, we're going to give everyone 1 more minute to join, and then we will get started. How are you doing this morning, Paula, by the way?
Great. I hope you're having a great day, too. It's wonderful to see everyone here.
Yes, and if you'd like to turn your video screen on, you're more than welcome to. If you're more comfortable with your Zoom off, you can leave it off. Typically, our book club, when we do our book club discussion, our format will be where everyone will have their video, and it will be more of a back and forth. This intro is really about giving Paula the chance to teach us more about the book, about the project, and while we're doing our reading over the next 4 to 6 weeks, which will culminate on June 10th, which is also Dr. Wilson's birthday. So the foundation has put together an incredible panel of guests from the science aspect and education and outreach. So our book club main discussion will be on June 10th at 2 p.m. EST. Same thing here. We'll do it through Zoom and Facebook Live. So we hope you will join us as well for that. And it is 11 a.m. Let's get started. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone. My name is Rachel Ann from the Mickey Hart Book Club. Thank you for joining us in this important read. Thank you for joining us for our chat this morning with Dr. Ehrlich. And hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome, Paula. Hi.
Hi.
And we are live, so let's, why don't you tell us before we dive into some of the questions that we have, and for those of you listening at home, if you have any questions, please jot them down, or you can put them in the group chat. We'll share some links in the group chat after the interview is over. But why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you found the work of Dr. Wilson and got involved with the foundation, and I think that's a great place to start.
Oh, absolutely. So I'm Paula Ehrlich. I'm president and CEO of the E.O. Wilson Biodiversity Foundation, and I lead the Half Earth Project. The E.O. Wilson Biodiversity Foundation is a tricky one, right? If you don't know E.O. Wilson or you don't know what biodiversity is. The publication of the book Half Earth was a great moment for us to really articulate what we were doing and thought was important. I found my way there to E.O. Wilson and to this cause really at a point in my life where it was no longer about my career development, but because of a true yearning to do something bigger than myself that made a difference in the world. I think that we all have that impulse, and I was very lucky to have gotten to know Ed Wilson earlier in my life, and then had the opportunity when this position opened to be, I guess, in the right place at the right time, to be an advocate for. Rachel Ann, you're on mute, I think.
I am. What a fantastic opportunity, not just for the foundation, but for the planet to find an advocate in you. And that's really fantastic. So thank you for your work. Thank you for your service and your entire team. It's been really exciting to reach out to the foundation. When Mickey chooses a book, they are things that are important to him and things that resonate with him. And you can find a lot of research about Mickey and how he wants to save the planet and believes in the rhythm of all things. And he spent some time with Dr. Wilson, which he talks about being extremely profound. There'll be some links to some articles about their relationship in the book club. So when he chose this book, it was perfect timing, not just for where we are in the world, but for things that matter and things that are important. So we're so excited to have you reading with us. If you have not read with us yet, you can join the book club by going to our Facebook page and find the link to the book club. And that's where we'll post the other discussions that are coming up. We're going to try to do something fun and outreach weekly or bi-weekly. But I really appreciate the way that the team of the foundation has stepped up to support the book club and help with outreach and really have made yourselves totally available to this. So on behalf of all of the book club members, I'd like to say thank you to you and your team. And let's dive into the meat and bones of this, which is not about us or Zoom. And we'll tee up our first question, if you notice. So one of the first things we talked about is that as people are reading this book, they will see a vision for protecting the planet's species. They may not understand that this is not just a vision, which we touched on a little bit. Half Earth is happening right now. And through the Half Earth Project, can you explain how this kind of changed from a vision to an action?
Sure. I think we each recognize something of ourselves, some core of our humanity in everything that E.O. Wilson, Ed, writes, that inspires us in our lives and in all that we do, however we work to care for our planet. So after the book was written and we launched the Half Earth Project, many people already found themselves sort of naturally eager to want to be part of really a dream team that would work together to imagine and lay the groundwork for what we needed to do to get to Half Earth. But what Ed did with the book Half Earth was to inspire a moonshot that created the groundwork for one of the grandest conservation efforts of our time. He doesn't really map out a detailed plan of action in the book, though. And my sense is it's because he trusted that each of us, presented with this moonshot goal, would use our unique experience and expertise to contribute to the goal. He believed in us and imagined that challenged with this goal, our nobler instincts would be elevated and inspired to convene with others to work together to care for our planet. And he absolutely means to evoke and create a JFK-like moonshot, a grand goal that we would all work together to achieve. JFK said it this way: we choose to go to the moon not because it's easy, but because it's hard, because it's a goal that will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills, because that challenge is one that we are willing to accept and one we are unwilling to postpone. So believe me, in its execution, Half Earth is extraordinarily complex. But the beauty of Half Earth is in its simplicity. People get it right away, right? It has the simplicity, unexpectedness, concreteness, and credibility of ideas that stick. And it also comes at a moment when people are leaning forward, looking for a hopeful solution for our planet. So inevitably, the action comes from everyone as they convene in support of this goal and solution for our planet.
Don't interrupt you and forget. For those of you that are joining us today, and if you have not heard of the Half Earth before the project. If you have, if you wouldn't mind putting in the chat, this would be a great time. I'm also happy to unmute everyone. So I'm going to unmute all of you. If you're familiar with Zoom, if you want to raise your hand, we can, sort through who's talking. But let's see if, would you like to ask anything to Paula about this specific question? A, have you heard of the Half Earth Project? Have you been to the website? If you have, how have you been participating at home? And are you familiar with Dr. Wilson's work? So if there was anyone who'd like to ask a question for Paula in regards to how this is no longer a vision and more of an action, this would be a fantastic time for that. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, sure. We'll start it off.
Great.
First of all, thanks for doing this. I've known about E.O. Wilson my whole life, my whole academic life, and I just learned about the Half Earth Project about a month ago, and I bought the book, and then I was so excited to find out you guys were moving the project forward. I just have so many questions about, where it's at. What is the organization? I mean, this is the Apollo program, so I just want to know more about it.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up the Apollo program. That's actually the way we've always thought about it as well. That like any great moonshot, that we needed a hardworking, passionate Apollo mission team. And we built a wonderfully focused team that has a variety of skill sets and that are actually in many places around the world. Our core scientific team is at Yale. And we also work with engineers and social scientists that are in Cambridge and Madrid. And a lot of people that, basically, as I suggested, sort of find themselves sort of already there and able to kind of convene to work together towards this goal.
Are you enjoying the book, Hunter? That was a great question.
I am. I have it right here. My daughter and I have been reading through it. We've been running the school, and so our focus with the school has been with helping the environment and kind of reaching out. How can other school programs help that? And so, of course, when I learned about the Half Earth Project, that immediately connected in my mind. And so, I want to know So I'm not a natural scientist. I'm not working in science at all right now.
May I request,
I would want to know,
Hunter, I don't want to interrupt you, but may I request whoever has the lovely dog that wants to participate in our book club discussion, would you all mind just muting yourself when someone's asking a question?
Yeah, no, that was me actually.
Oh, it was your own dog.
Yeah, sorry. So is how, are there meaningful ways, or do you foresee meaningful ways that might be involved without just being involved in conservation right now?
Yeah. Well, specifically, if folks would like to get involved in the Half Earth Project, the simplest and the easiest way is to join us by taking the Half Earth Pledge. That allows us to connect with you and you to connect with our community and kind of see everything that's going on. What the pledge does is it has you sort of raise your hand that say you'd like to take action to support species conservation, explore conservation priority areas in your home area or other places that are of interest, participate in local conservation events, support policies that protect the Earth's lands and oceans, and also to share information about the Half Earth Project with your network. I mean, it's wonderful today to be able to reach out to people we haven't met before and reach new folks and their friends and their friends' friends to join us. And as you begin, when you land on our website to do that and you begin to explore our website, you'll see other ways you can become more deeply involved in the programs that are either relevant to your life, your expertise, or your interests. So if you're a teacher, for example, you can consider becoming a Half Earth Project educator ambassador. We have a robust network of teachers that are working with us to engage students. If you're a scientist, you can consider joining your colleagues as a scientist for a Half Earth future. We've tried to create a number of different ways to deeply honor the unique experience and expertise of everyone who'd like to work with us to achieve the goal of Half Earth.
Could I ask, can you hear me? Could I ask how closely you're working with other conservation groups? I belong to Sierra Club and Center for Biologic Diversity, and both of them are sort of advertising their programs for 30% by 2030. And I've asked both of them, how are you working with the Half Earth Project? And they kind of go, yeah, we know about that, but they're not really talking about how they're working with you.
Yeah, no, from my perspective, our role is to convene everybody that's working in different ways towards the goal of half. There are many organizations that are working in a towards the goal of 30% by 2030. And those are wonderful steps on the way to half, which is great. The goal of Half Earth is not really a socio-political, geographical, country by country thing, which is where 30 by 30 is focused at the UN level and amongst those. Really a global goal where we can bring all the people who are working in different ways, including your friends at Sierra Club, et cetera, together to work towards that goal. And so from my mind, they already are working in collaboration with us in some way, because like many others, they're helping to get to that goal.
Thank you, Cheryl. That was a great question. Together, there's also a question from Diana in the comments, which we can talk about. Diana, if you visit their website, they have a lot of resources for teachers and education and a whole department and people that do nothing but work on outreach and educational development. So we can make an intro for you and put some contacts in the Zoom group chat and find out more about sharing and spreading the word. So that brings us to our next question, Paula.
Sure.
Which when I was thinking of questions to ask and I was working with her director of engagement, I had like a list of like 40 because it's so interesting. And he's like, can you let's pare it down a little. So these are some pared down questions that we'll get to. So this was something, Paula, we had talked about before we got online that you touched about a little, but when I first learned about the work, my first question was, why half? Yeah. Doesn't the whole earth matter? Because in some of the other teachings that we get from different organizations that are supporting initiatives to save the planet, it's always the whole planet, the whole planet, the whole planet. Mm-hmm. So what really was interesting to me for this particular initiative was the approach that you're taking. So I guess like a lot of people, when they first hear about it, is the first question is like, why is half the right calculation?
Yeah, well, it's probably pretty intuitive, right? That as the size of protected places grow, the diversity of life surviving within those places can also grow. And we can extrapolate from the theory of island biogeography, which has been around since about 1950. E.O. Wilson originated that with a colleague. We can extrapolate from that theory of island biogeography that the number of species that can be sustainably supported on Earth is related to the area that's protected in a mathematically predictable way. So more precisely, a change in the number of species that can be supported in a habitat is related to the habitat size by the fourth root. Okay, so the fourth root of 50% is about 85. So we know if we protect half, we'll protect 85% of species. And if we pick that half really well, we'll probably safeguard the bulk of biodiversity. So the key is to map the species of our planet at a high enough resolution that we have the opportunity we need, or the information we need, to identify the places where we have the best opportunity to protect the most species. And that's what we're doing with the Half Earth Project map.
Sorry, the mute button keeps on moving. And this morning, my computer started in Korean, which all my browsers, my Facebook, everything. And what's interesting is even the help files were in Korean. So I had to bring my laptop to look at the screen to figure out where to pick. All of a sudden, it was very strange. But I just put the link to the maps actually in the chat. So do you, should we take a moment, Paula, click on that page together? Would you like to kind of talk about the maps in more detail for a few minutes?
Sure. And, I invite people to kind of explore and check them out on their own as well. It's really a lot of compelling, interesting information there. And also it continues to develop. And our goal over the next 5 years is to map every species at a 1 kilometer resolution. And what you'll see on the map is that information is then integrated with current conservation activities and human impacts, or where people are, and begin to map out where those opportunities are.
So it's very scientific, which I think for a lot of people, there are some approaches to conservation that are more spiritual. I think there's a spiritual component to all conservation. But what I like is, math and science are pretty hard to ignore and argue with. So I think that when there's sound scientific principles combined with awareness and spirituality, it makes for a fantastic team. So go Planet Earth. And it's great to see all of you guys here today that are interested in how you can help. Thank you, Mandy. You can find out more about how medical scientists can help in a meaningful way by dealing directly with the foundation, so we can make sure you're in touch. And they have a whole science team. And like I said, they have really empowered people that do nothing but help all of us be able to help them, which in turn helps the planet. So going into our next question. So Paula, how do we get there? How do we get to half? And does everyone here have a role in the Half Earth Project? And if so, what are some of those things that we can do together to move the needle?
Yeah, well, we touched on parts of this before. The first question raised after Ed wrote the book Half Earth is, which half? So like any great moonshot, the Half Earth Project has this hardworking and passionate Apollo mission team. I mentioned our partners at Yale Envisioning that sit in this Apollo control room with data spread out before them, doing the deep scientific analysis and providing scientific leadership on which half, and engineering a map that then engages people in why these places are special. And we're also working with people who are advancing field and taxonomic research to better understand our little known planet, as Ed would call it, and how it can best be managed to protect life on Earth. And so I invite you to take a look online at the Half Earth Project map and really think of it as a tool that can help in very local, regional levels, and as well as global levels, to think about what places are most special that we should prioritize and manage for conservation. But if you're not a scientist or a decision maker in your local area, as I mentioned before, people can get involved by taking the Half Earth Pledge and becoming engaged in our community, exploring on our website the various programs that we have that allow people to, affiliate with our activities and allow us to kind of honor and celebrate what you're doing as well. Those include places for a Half Earth future, communities for a Half Earth future, scientists for a Half Earth future, and companies for a Half Earth future, all of which are thinking about ways that we can have a more sustainable presence on our planet. And one of the things we're enjoying doing right now is just beginning to really showcase those things. And so I'm pretty excited about the many different ways people can be involved in big and small ways. I think you're all contributing in one way or the other, really by spending the time to really think about how you're living on the planet during this time.
How we're living on the planet during this time, especially during this time. I think that brings up a question we didn't discuss in advance, but I think is very relevant, of this time where for a moment the entire planet on pause together, the entire planet forced to look at their lifestyles and their resource allocation and their community development, how we all connect with each other. So do you feel like every cloud has a silver lining? This has been if we all wouldn't mind, I hate to interrupt things, but I think a moment of gratitude that we could send out into the world for all of the healthcare workers and the people working on the front lines to keep us all comfortable and fed. So if we wouldn't mind, a little off topic, to just take a moment of gratitude for all those people out there that are doing their part. for leading us into this moment of what makes me think about that is how is the coronavirus and what's happening around the planet, I think, has maybe opened up a lot more eyes to pay attention to these things. And I think has brought a lot of people to start to realize we have to make some changes to be sustainable on our planet and be together and grow together and have a home for thousands of years in the next generation. So do you feel like you're noticing that more people now will be paying attention to the environment and how to save the planet, that this has opened our eyes to like that we're really we're on a small closed loop system. I think the sooner people realize that we have to work together, that we're all in the same, like there is no, people don't realize that there's an interesting video about where our garbage goes, where if you've never watched it, I highly recommend it, but you don't think about it. You throw your garbage away, it goes to your local community, whether you recycle or not. But the whole process of how all the garbage that's ever been created on Earth is kind of almost still stays on Earth in one form of another. It's an actual pretty interesting thing. Well, let's dive into the book a little bit. So we hope you're all reading it. If you have not already ordered the book, I will put the link in the chat to the website where you can order the book. If you order it through the Amazon Smile link, the Foundation does benefit from that, so we highly recommend ordering it that way. If that's not your thing, of course, order it however, but the Amazon link has the download, the audio book, the physical book, hard copy, all of those good things. What is your favorite part of the book, Paula? And if you could tell us why.
Well, my favorite chapter is one called The Lord God Species. Now, that's not necessarily because of the content per se, but because of the way it helped me realize and articulate the importance of what Ed had written and the moment we're in. Now, Ed has always written about the importance of transcendent moments of discovery, of how important they are in compelling us to do something extraordinary with our lives and make a difference in the world. And in the Lord God Species chapter of Half Earth, Ed writes about naturalists' Lord God moments. That moment when a pair of ivory-billed woodpeckers suddenly descend out of nowhere and you say, Lord God, what was that? So it's like naturalist heaven. As Ed says, Lord God moments can come from anywhere and at any time. For naturalists, it's when their world is suddenly like rocked by a new, rare, or unexpected discovery. They see a Lord God salamander or a Lord God butterfly, or for Ed, it would be a Lord God ant, right? And my Lord God moment was the day that I received the first draft of Half Earth. I called Ed and said, this is a Lord God book. And he said, what? And I said, this is a Lord God book. And he said, what? And finally I said, and had to do it with my best Southern accent because, well, he's from the South. I said, this is a Lord God good book. And he said, oh. And you see, what he had done was write it all down and give us the words, right, to convene around this compelling idea. And that's what we did. And so that's became my most exciting chapter, was the sense that he had given us the words finally to do what we really needed to do to care for our planet.
And then through you and your team, you're taking these words and helping the rest of us turn them into action, which is an incredible part of how we can all save our planet together. So we've got some great questions going in the comments. And again, we put some links in there to the educational resources. We've put some links in there for you to be able to purchase the book if you're not already reading with us. And now we're going to open it up for a few minutes. We have a few more minutes of Dr. Ehrlich's time, so I want to respect. So I'm going to unmute. If you have a question and you want to raise your hand or turn your camera on, I can go through the questions in the chat. If you're not comfortable speaking them, you can type them and I will narrate them for you. But this would be a great time to open it up to some Q&A. So while the rest of you are thinking, I will pick one that came into the chat. Let's see. So a question from Thomas for you, Paula, asks, how do you differentiate between preserving existing conservation areas versus creating new ones, as Tompkins Conservation is doing in South America?
Well, first of all, it's great that you bring up their work, because that's an extraordinary model for conservation, involving local communities, indigenous communities in an extraordinary way through private conservation. And when I guess, we've talked about half is this, and I'm sure you're imagining large landscapes, but I think conservation or management of areas for conservation happens at all different scales, and all of those contribute to the goal of Half Earth. So it could be your backyard garden. It could be a corridor that connects important places and allows for migration of animals, perhaps in response to climate change, or it could be a much larger landscape. And remember, when an area is protected, that doesn't always mean that it's being best managed for conservation. So we do have to keep an eye on that too, and make sure we understand what species are there and how, and understand how they work together in that ecosystem in order to best support and manage their lives, really, and inevitably our own sustainability.
Thank you. That was a great question. Then we have another question from Emily Byers, which I believe we answered in the chat. Emily was wondering about how do college students get involved, and then a question about organizations that have taken the pledge, or how are you guys approaching, organizations to encourage all of their different members to take the pledge?
Yeah, where there are organizations, communities of people like yourselves here today, we like to honor the way that those communities are contributing to a Half Earth future and the unique way in which you're thinking about it. The way as college students, that's a community in themselves, but I hope you already feel like today you're part of it. You've already joined and are participating, and continue to think about how you're living on the planet, and engage with us on our website with the Half Earth Pledge and in other ways that feel relevant and important to you.
As far as organizations that are working as an organization to take the pledge, how does that outreach work for you guys? And is there anything that, is there a specific place that someone who might lead an organization can go to see how they can adopt the pledge as something that is, their organization is signed up to, so therefore just kind of trickles down?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a part of our website right now that we're just building out. So you may not see that presence fully there at this time, but we certainly are working with and talking to communities and organizations all the time, and are basically queuing up to be able to showcase the unique and cool things that they're doing on our website very soon. So feel free to reach out to us via email or through our website, and we're all hands on deck to have that conversation.
So Chris is not probably going to hate me for this, but I would assume, do these emails go to Chris? Or what is the best email if someone has an organization or is a community leader? What is the best way or place, what is the best contact information for them to reach out to? Is it the info at?
Yeah, I was going to say the easiest one to remember is probably the best one. So yes, info at it would be a good one.
Okay, so we'll put that email for you guys to reach out if you have any generic questions. They're very responsive. We'll be back to you right away. So the next question is from Cheryl. She would like to know what proportion of the earth and oceans are currently protected?
About 15% of the land and about 7% of the ocean. So you got a little ways to go.
And how long has that taken? That brings up a question. So those are obviously not big numbers out of the whole, and the clock is moving very fast, faster than we're obviously moving to catch up to the effects of what we're doing to our planet. How long has that taken? How long do you think it's taken us to get to where we're at today? And what are your predictions for if we all, if we don't step up, this is what's going to kind of, and if we do, what is your kind of time frame where how long did that take us to get to the 7 and the 15?
Yeah, well, all of now. Yeah, all of our lives. And that's the tricky thing, right? We have a lot of environmental conservation organizations working earnestly to put out fires and protect places around the world. We've protected we've protected about 20% of species that are on the endangered species list. So we're doing pretty well. But what Ed was imagining with the Half Earth Project is that we changed our ambition from a process to a goal, to a real moonshot goal, so that we could be more effective in really getting to a level of conservation that will solve the problem. But on the good side, we do have more technology now than we've had historically to really understand species and to map them at a high resolution. We have big data capabilities we didn't have before. We have remote sensing that we didn't have before. We need a little bit more attention to the boots on the ground taxonomic research to better understand the species of our planet. But with focus, we do have the opportunity uniquely in this moment, if we decide we want to figure out what where the best places, where we have the best opportunities to protect the most species are, and really work fairly quickly towards this goal. The risk, of course, is that if things stay on the same path, that we'll probably lose half of the species of our planet by the end of this century. And so there is some urgency to this. And I would also add, unlike climate change, which we sort of know how to fix if we had the political will, when we lose species, and right now we're losing them about 1,000 times the rate before people came along, they're gone forever. We can't bring them back. And so with great humility, we need to really think about how we're living on and caring for the species of our planet, so we don't risk losing them through extinction.
It's so profound to really think about that we share this planet with all these other species, and by no fault of their own, and strictly us as our role on this planet are capable of wiping everything else out. And it's not, it's a little overwhelming to think about the responsibility and the stewardship that we hopefully can rise to the occasion, so the earth can continue to remain diverse and full of incredible things. I have all these beautiful flowers, and I go out every day and I notice the different little bugs, and it's so interesting to go see. Every day there's something new, a new color, a new weird wing, and some new freaky shape, and just you never realize how many different things are on the planet until you're challenged to look at them. So one of the things I've been doing since I started reading this book, I've been doing a lot of reading of Paul Stamets and some of the really interesting things about what goes on underneath the forest floor. Our first book was The Hidden Life of Trees. So we, read so it's been very interesting to look at things differently than I might have before, even being, recycling and caring for the earth and trying to have a low carbon footprint. I never went out to my backyard and really paid attention to the thousands of species that I share my home with, even just on a daily basis. So it's been very grounding and comforting to look around in my own life, and possibly for those of you at home, to just look and notice around you the little things, that you're not alone. We're not the only things here. And there's tiny microscopic little beings that all of our actions affect. So collectively, that's one of the things that Mickey was really happy to support a book club, because, there's all sorts of engagement and music and the arts. But when you can really enrich a group of people together and bring them together with a common, like you said, moonshot goal, it's fantastic that artists are willing to use their platforms and their voices to help bring us together for important work like this. So again, thank you, Mickey, for choosing this book and always being a great steward of the earth. We have another question here. Actually, it's more of a comment about guerrilla marketing Half Earth by putting the links on all the organization's sites and comments with the link to take the pledge. So Kurt, if you're interested, it sounds like a fantastic volunteer opportunity. We are happy to have you on the team. Obviously, you'll speak directly to them. That's just some great comments. I really appreciate everyone's participation. So we're going to open it up again to some Q&A. We have, Paula, how much more of your time do we have? I think we have 8 minutes, right? 11:45 we were thinking of. Thank you. Oh, Mandy and Chris are taught. Great. So we have about 8 minutes left for Paula. Would anyone like to raise their hand and ask a question while we have her here? If you do, just let me know. You all are able to unmute yourself, which you can do in the top right corner. It can say unmute. So you can just unmute yourself in the little window, or you can raise your hand and I will unmute you. So let's open it up to some Q&As. Hunter, go for it.
So I'm trying to kind of wrap my head around where we're at with the strategy. Are there phases here? And we're like in phase 1, trying to get a sense of just the information that's out there, and then a timeline goal, or what's the strategic vision with this?
Well, the core of the Half Earth Project, and this comes a lot from the fact that E.O. Wilson as a scientist is the guiding science, right? And our goal is over the next 3 to 4 years to complete the mapping of all the species of our planet at a 1 kilometer resolution. That should provide a tool for helping guide where we need to go. But that's not the key to success. The key to success, of course, is to address all of the questions that surround the core success of this as well. And we're working doggedly to move forward programs that authentically engage students, for example, in being next generation stewards and providing them with the materials and learning materials and other information that really drives purpose in their studies towards this goal. We're working with companies who would like to shift to their missions to more of a purpose-driven value for our planet as opposed to just stakeholders. And we're working with them right now to write a handbook about what those best practices look like. Extraordinarily innovative entrepreneurial people really telling us what the next step should be and us helping to showcase that. And as I mentioned, working with different kinds of communities to really showcase what this could look like. The next step of our work, and this is happening parallel to what we're doing now around the core science, is also to bring that science to action. And I know that's what you guys are mostly hungry about hearing. And we're envisioning how we can uniquely engage people and why these places are special, and then connect them with ways that they can contribute financially or through volunteer efforts and other things to be able to really contribute to all the big and small efforts that are going on worldwide to protect these most important places. And of course, we're always open to hearing how you're doing, what you're doing within your own lives to make a meaningful difference. I think that the important thing is no effort, big or small, is no effort is too small. That in some ways, I think we encourage and give each other courage as we realize we're contributing to this longer term goal. So I really appreciate your question.
Thank you, Hunter. And the next question, Carlos, I'm going to unmute you. Oh, you are unmuted. So Carlos, go ahead.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Rachel and Paula. My question is, so has the project seen any region or country that already has reached some, similar to having half of their protected areas or half of the land in protected areas? And have you guys seen, kind of an example region or example country where the socioeconomic or the land policy is adapted to that type of big, that type of arrangement in their country?
Yeah. So I'm glad that you asked that question, because it gives me the opportunity to clarify. The goal of Half Earth is not to protect half of each country or half of each state even. It's protect the half of our globe that would be necessary to protect or safeguard the bulk of biodiversity. And we're working right now on a report card that allows each country to see how they're doing. And for some countries, that target in order to really protect endemic or important species in their place may be different than the target for other countries. So you watch for that, because that paper is about to come out. But there are some countries that do provide a really good example of how to do this well. And they're the countries that have really focused in on the scientific research to understand what they have there, and then sensitive conservation management. So Costa Rica's done a really nice job with this, for example. Another place that's close to our hearts that we love and is going to be part of this conversation is actually Gorongosa National Park in Mozambique. They're a true model for what we should do to do socioeconomically relevant conservation, support the local people of an area, educate and bring them on board in protecting their own special place, and really doing the science that helps to drive how their place can best be conserved. So they're another one to keep an eye on, for sure.
Thank you.
I've hosted probably 1,000 Zoom meetings, so this mute button today is really cracking me up. I don't know why this window keeps closing and opening. Bringing back up to your point, Paula, about the different countries that are doing things and this white paper that you guys are putting out, how does one get are these academic papers that you're only releasing in the scientific community? Is there a newsletter that people can sign up for on your website where we will get access to all these incredible assets that you're creating about the planet? What's the best way for us to, besides reading the book and the website, is there where are you distributing this paper, and how?
So the answer to your question is yes and yes and yes.
Sorry.
So yes, our team of scientists, are publishing in peer-reviewed journals, and as that information is published, for example, in Nature or Science magazine, we are sharing those publications, as well as the results of those publications in some of the assets we've been talking about today. We also have a very active blog that tracks what's going on in the world with regards to programs, projects, and science of our organization and E.O. Wilson. And we do have a newsletter as well. When you sign the Half Earth Pledge, you automatically get the newsletter, unless you decide not to. So that's a great way of keeping up with all that we have on the go as well.
Fantastic. We are closing. We're getting any more questions while we have the lovely Dr. Ehrlich here. If you can raise your hand.
Well, what I was going to say, and I think it is relevant to this moment. Ed once said, humanity's passing through a bottleneck of overpopulation and environmental destruction. And at the other end, if we pass through safely and take most of Earth's life forms with us, human existence could be a paradise compared to today. We are in an important moment right now where we can really think hard about what we have done and what we really need to do. And I just wanted to say, although I know it's a hard time, I hope it will also allow us to really think about this important stuff, right? To imagine that life could be a paradise if we want it to be. As Ed said, to strive against odds on behalf of all life, to come together around the Half Earth goal and solution for our planet would be humanity at its most noble. So thank you all for coming today. I'm really, really happy we had the chance to talk.
Thank you, Paula. This will be live on the Facebook page and the book club on Nikki's page and the E.O. Wilson Biodiversity Foundation Facebook page. I'd like to say thank you again for everyone who's coming. I hope you're reading with us. Stay tuned for additional book club discussions and things that you can do to participate. And then in closing this out, I really liked, if you haven't seen what Mickey had to say, this was his quote about his time with Dr. Wilson. And as we know, he's met a lot of people over the course of his life and luminaries all over different verticals: science, music, philanthropy, anthropology, ethnomusicology. The list could go on. And one of the things that, so he says, "My time with Dr. Wilson brought me to a revelation. that our destruction of this planet is entirely arrhythmic, the opposite of creation. We have lost our groove, lost our place in the grand musical composition called life. And those words really stick with me. And so hopefully we can all find the rhythm together again and do things that will help our planet vibrate at a higher vibration together. And again, I'm Rachel Ann. I'm president of the Mickey Hart Book Club. I hope you guys will all continue to read with us and do good things at home. Thank you, Paula. Thank you, Chris, and all the staff of the E.O. Wilson Biodiversity Foundation that have been fully supportive. And we'll hope to see you in another week with some new content, and we'll have scientists and videos and action plans. And it's really just fantastic to be with all of you on this common goal, this moonshot, as you will, Paula, of making our planet that paradise you just talked about. I love that.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone. May you have a lovely afternoon. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Paula, you and I can just be the last to leave. We'll wait.
Okay.
Or if anyone has any questions, sticking around, it was so great. It was so nice to see everyone. And thank you to everyone who turned their cameras on. I want to really mandate that everyone just turns their cameras on, but not everyone wants to take a shower these days or put on pants.
I sent you a message. I sent you my email just because I'm so interested in engaging in any way I can, when I can. So if there's any way